Good morning. All of you here in the hall and those of you outside and everyone online, welcome. If you don't know my name is Anyu. I'm again substituting for Ejo. So glad to be here, and I'm glad all of you are here. So what I'm going to talk about this morning, I'm going to offer a few remarks, I think mostly from my own perspective of having practiced here for a long time. I'm going to offer a few remarks on the upcoming practice period, and then I think we'll take some time to review what's, and have a time for people to ask questions and so on about the period. I think, so for those of you online, I know there is the practice stuff, if you will, the schedule is online, and probably you can access it when we talk about that. And then for those of you who are here, we have printed copies that'll be handed out at some point. So I think I'll start with a story. Many of you know this story, but it's always worth retelling. I live in the neighborhood. I live just about 2.5 blocks from here. Many of you do now, but I think at the time of this story, I may have been the only one. I don't really know. It was about 2003, and I've lived in this neighborhood since 2000. And I think fall of 2003 might have been one of the first practice periods here. I'm not really sure of this. The temple bought this place in, I think, 2002. So fall of 2003 might have been roughly the first practice period. And there were just a few of us that participated. And I had committed to sitting zazen every morning, and it was probably 5 or 5:30. I don't really remember at the time. And I was a little slack about it, and I didn't get up one morning. And so I'm asleep, and I hear a knock at the door. And I open the door, and there's Ejo. And he looks at me, and all he says is, "Zazen," and then he walks away. So I always imagine him, kind of almost like, I don't know, like Gandalf or the Wicked Witch of the West or something, like, striding down the street towards my house. I live that direction on 22nd in Cleveland. And with his robes kind of flowing, and then he just stands, and he walks away, and I'm kind of like, oh. And in that moment, what did I choose to do? What I chose to do was get dressed and come to zazen. But I could have chosen a bunch of different things. I could have said, screw this, I'm going back to bed. Why would any sane person want to get up so early and just go and sit down and potentially fall asleep again? So what did I listen to and why? What I chose to do was at that moment to, again, as I said, to get dressed and come to zazen. And I don't know if even why is the right question, but is this what, I think maybe it comes down to which voice inside me did I listen to? So I listened to the voice that drew me into practice. As I was pulling this talk together, I don't know, the good old internet. We always have to look on the internet when we're trying to pull together information. So I did an internet search. Why do we practice zazen? That's what I put in for my search terms. And so, as you might imagine, a lot of the stuff revolved around, some variation of improving your life. And I know Eju has mentioned this before. So I saw, for instance, I didn't spend that much time on this, but insight into your true nature. You can gain insight into your true nature. You can improve your life. You can develop concentration. And then there were other things like how to know if it is right for you. What is the purpose? This was a common question. What is the purpose? We learn how to cope with stress. We learn to reduce anxiety. There are lots of benefits to sitting zazen. Very rarely do people talk about the pitfalls, such as, is it self-indulgent to spend a lot of time sitting on a cushion? Zen students are often said to be navel gazers. Physical and mental discomfort, hurt, painful knees, sleepiness, my back hurts. Why would anybody want to do this? I mean, these are all the things that come up, depending on if this is your first day here or your millionth day, all of these things will come up for you. I think, again, well, one thing I want to read is, I think we encounter our edges. We encounter our edges in Zen practice. And I'm training also to be a forest therapy guide with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapists. And this one of the trainers has this really nice kind of image of edges, which I think is really appropriate to Zazen. And he wrote, "Imagine camping in the woods on a dark night. Beside the camp there is a lantern, and the lantern casts a circle of light. At the edge of that circle there is a mystery, because you cannot see beyond it. Moving toward the edge, your eyes begin to adjust to the darkness, and then you can see what you could not see when you were standing next to the lantern. As you approach the edge recedes in front of you, widening the circle. But to do this requires some bravery and resilience, for what is unknown is often scary. Often what lies beyond the edge can be profoundly beautiful, and it is made even more wonderful because its discovery was unanticipated." So I kind of think of Zazen and a practice term in those, you don't know. And if you don't try it or try to encounter it, you won't ever know. So I think that is why let me think about this for a second. Why asking why do we do this may not be exactly the right question. Is what I think it's more of a question of what. What do we listen to? I in the past, and I think it's a constant struggle. Getting up in the morning early, without a doubt, the constant struggle I will probably always deal with for the rest of my practice life. Oh God, 4:30, and it's like, dang, this is so crazy, and then especially when I have to go to work and but. I just accept that as part of my unfolding practice. You never get to a place, I don't think, where it becomes easy necessarily. But again, I digress. I think it's, what do we want to listen to? What do we want to listen to? So I'm going to take a little bit of a tiny digression and read a story from the sutras, which is probably one of the things that everyone will encounter as they embrace practice in whatever form they embrace it. And it's not too tight and not too loose. And this is from the Theravadan tradition. And I love, this is probably not a direct translation, but I like how it's written. A comfort-loving student. How many of us are comfort-loving? Really? Like everybody? A comfort-loving student named Sona was making violent efforts to become physically and mentally vigorous. But he seemed so unsuccessful that the thought came to him, well, my family's wealthy. Perhaps I can enjoy my riches and yet do good. What if I were to give up the training and return to a rich but worthy life? Yeah, this is probably good, right? He's got money and so on. He could do good with that. The Buddha understood what Sona was thinking and said to him, Sona, were you not skillful at playing the lute when you were a layman? Yes, I was, replied Sona. And what do you think, Sona? Was it possible to play in tune when the lute was overstrung, when the strings were too tight? Asked the Buddha. No, indeed not. The strings could snap if too tightened, replied Sona. And what do you think, Sona? Suppose the strings were slackened and became too slack. Could you play then? The Buddha asked. Again, no. Without any tension, the strings could not produce any tones, Sona answered. But when they were neither over-tightened nor too slack, but keyed to the middle, not too tight and not too loose, then could you play harmoniously, the Buddha asked. Certainly, responded Sona. Then, Sona, take heed. that when effort is too strenuous, it leads to mental and physical strain, and when too slack, to laziness and dullness. So please make a firm determination that you will adopt the middle way, not allowing yourself to struggle or to slacken, but recognizing that confidence, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom are the fruits of a calm and equable middle way, the Buddha exhorted. Sona followed the Buddha's advice and in due course awakened. I love how those always answered. He did what he was told, and anyway. But I think this is a good story, right? You know, we get the concept that if the strings are too tight, we can't make a good sound, and if they're too loose, we can't make a good sound. But to me, it's like, how do you know when you're in tune? How do you know that? For me, in my experience, I have had to do it too tight and too loose, and I think I kind of still do struggle with that. And so, if you were to look at if you have looked at the offerings for this term, you're going to kind of go, whoa, I want to do everything. I want to do it all. I think I can do it all. And then you're going to find that was probably too much, depending on what other things are going on in your life. But then again, I find for me is, how do you adjust your priorities? You know, is there something that you give up in order to take on practice? So let's see, where am I going here? I'm going to read from the what Ejo wrote about the one paragraph from the term student description. And Ejo wrote, "Sincerity is the simplest thing in the world and also the most difficult to maintain. It requires vulnerability and uprightness in the face of a constantly shifting and challenging world. Meeting life squarely takes constant attention, and there are countless, I added that second countless ways to escape. The foremost aim of the term student program in particular, but I think practice in general, is to cultivate and guide our sincere heart through inquiry into the Buddha way. What calls to each of us now has called to countless beings throughout the ages and in every corner of the world. What is the call? Here, how will you respond?" Notice there's no why. I notice that there's no why in there. Why do we practice this? What is the call? How will you respond? And I'm going to add, what do you listen to? What do you listen to? I always find that, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but there's kind of a voice that lives up here that's sort of the rational justification part of the brain that says, oh, you know, you'll go tomorrow, or you need the sleep, or you didn't sleep well, or you got to go to work. You know, it's that this is the mind of excuses in sort of a way. And the mind that I try to listen to kind of lives back here somewhere. It's just, I mean, everybody probably has something like that, but it just kind of lives back here in the back of my right ear for some reason. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Yes, all of these things up here are true, but what do I want to listen to? And I think everybody has to sort that out for themselves. And it's not an easy thing necessarily to do. So, too tight, too loose. Or as I think one time I heard I forget who it was or when it was, apparently a Buddhist teacher, I don't know which tradition, he sat up in the front of this, in front of his assembly, I think it was a man, and simply just sat there and went, too hot, too cold, too hot, too cold. Over and over, like for a half an hour, just saying too hot, too cold, over and over again. So I might not be remembering that right, but I think there's a good lesson in there. You know, it's always, you know, we're falling on one side of the log or another. And I think balance is a good word, but I don't know. Balance is kind of overused in our culture. So I don't know what the right word is. It might be that string tightening thing. It might be, what do we listen to? It might be getting up in the morning and kind of going, I'm going to use that as an example because that's my struggle, I guess. It might be get up in the morning and going, yes, I'm too tired, but what am I going to listen to? What am I going to listen to? So we have about 30 minutes left. I did not want to spend all of my time talking. I think I think what we might do, Dokyu or Joichi, do we have things to hand out? I thought we might just kind of go over the term and just kind of put it out there. And again, I just want to be clear, as Dokyu is handing those out, no one here is required to do anything here. If this is your first time here, hallelujah, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you don't come back next Sunday, that's okay too. But everybody's welcome to participate in whatever way they like. Everybody's different. I tend to dive in feet first and overwhelm myself, but that doesn't mean you have to do that. So we have a lot of stuff, and it is a lot, but you don't have to do all of it. And those of you online, you can follow along, or you can look online, or probably some of you are probably already familiar with what we're offering, and some of you are actually making those offerings. So if people have questions about particular offerings that I can't answer, if the leaders or teachers of those things are here, maybe they can offer some additional information if people are wanting that. Do we have enough, Dokyu, for people outside too? Maybe people. Huh? What's that?
To be determined.
Okay, to be determined. All right, fine. Well, we can. Maybe we can share if we have to share. Sharing is good, but sharing in COVID doesn't really work that well, does it? Ugh. All right. Okay. People can. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's also fine just to listen to me and then look online when you get home, but we'll do the best we can with this. So I think while Dokyu is handing those out, I might just go ahead and get started. So it's been a tradition here at Buddha Eye, and I believe it's possible that the fall of 2003 might have been the first one or the second one, I don't really know, but to do a term student program of some kind. And so I'm going to talk about that first, even though it might sound like it's the most important thing, but it's not. I'm just saying that this is one of the things that we do, and it's a way to really, if you feel ready, to dive into practice here. So just to kind of go over this a little bit, Zen monasteries traditionally hold a monastic training period. It was typically held if we're talking about the part of the world that's now known as India, Nepal, and so on, during a rainy season when they couldn't really be practicing outside, so they would stay inside in a building, in a shelter. And they practiced. So here at Buddha Eye, we have zazen, chanting, studying sutras, and cooking, eating, sleeping. And so we model this kind of monastic practice so that for the residents here will do it, but also that people in the community can participate. So it can look different for different people, but there's kind of there's a list of requirements that kind of help kind of create a container for people to practice in. Again, this is not like an advanced thing. Anybody is welcome to participate, but I think maybe Dokyu or Joichi can answer. Does Ejo want people to talk to him first before joining this, or you can just sign up at will?
I think it's sign up.
Okay, that's fine. That's cool. I'm glad. So then you kind of you can sign up and go, yeah, that looks good. I can do that. And then you'll find out what it's really. No, I'm just kidding. This is the kind of practice that you would engage in when you're going to look at this and go, it looks like a lot, and it is. But how do you want to organize your life? And it does require some trade-offs, I think. So we have an orientation for people who want to be term students. We have, looks like 3 meetings throughout the term, from 1 to 3. That's 2 hours 3 times during the term. And the term is roughly 10 weeks, I think. 10 weeks. Regular Zazen, minimum of 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week. Regular recitation practice. You can come up with your own service. We have our sutra book online, or you can come to the temple at either 5 or 6 a.m. every morning. You can come to assembly, which is either this assembly or we have Tuesday and Thursday assembly most weeks. Dharma talks are offered. You can listen to those either in person, online, or listen to them in recording. You will have homework. I don't know what it is, but usually it's not like school homework. It's more of a short written reflection. You can engage in sanzen and or practice discussion. Sanzen is a formal meeting with Ejo, the teacher, and practice discussion can be with me or Myobun, June or Kogan. It can cover a range of topics of what you're working with in your practice. And then you can participate in retreats. That's not required to be a term student, but we have, I think, 3 during the term. We have 1 at the end of September, 1 in November, and then the week-long retreat in December. So that's a very nutshell version of that. Looking at this, does anybody have any questions about it or things that don't make sense?
Anyu?
Yeah.
So I haven't still heard, so is there what do you know what we're going to be doing? Like what are we going to be studying?
That I don't know. I don't know if...
We have the same answers every
I know, nobody knows.
Okay, nobody knows.
Surprise!
Okay.
It'll be a surprise. I don't know. Yeah, usually but thank you for asking that, because usually during the term we have a text or something that we focus on, and I don't know what that is or if anybody does.
Nobody knows, I don't think.
Nobody knows? Stokyu, you
Nobody
don't
knows.
know?
It is to be determined.
To be determined. I mean, we have till the 19th of September before any of this starts, right? So
Is that next week?
no, today is the 5th, so it's in 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks.
So our term begins in 2 weeks. That's another good point to bring up. Our term begins in 2 weeks on the 19th. And that's one of the ceremonies that we'll have is the term opening. And typically what term students do will be to look at this list of commitments and decide what they're going to do, and then write it down on a piece of paper and then make an offering here at the altar of what their commitments are. That said, I don't know that Ejo is going to be going around to everybody's door as, to make sure that you're doing what you said you were going to do.
You never know.
You never know. Now, more of us live in the neighborhood. But that said, I mean, it's really, how do you want to hold this for yourself? How do you want to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. How am I going to hold myself to it? Not in a rigid, hard way, but in a which voice am I going to listen to when the voice comes up that says I can't do this anymore? How will you handle that? I mean, this is part of practice. This is what I'm saying. If you're stringing it too tight or too loose, you'll learn. You'll learn your own way of doing it. And it goes without saying, well, I suppose in COVID there are fewer distractions than there usually are. But there's a lot of ways to be distracted. There are so many ways to get sidetracked. I mean, so many ways. So just I think really being aware of that. I mean, one of my mindless things that I do is I play this dumb free online word game, And so I just kind of find words in this kind of puzzle thing. And it's, and I realize that I'm procrastinating when I do it, but, I just kind of give myself a few minutes to procrastinate and then move on. Sometimes you have to do that. So let me see. I have these in kind of a not so great order. I have page 1 somewhere. This is 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Okay, well, maybe we're doing this So, how did I mess that up? Ah, there we go. Okay, here's 1 and 2. So, we have a lot of offerings this term to serve a wide variety of needs. So every Sunday at 8:50, I think, did we have it this morning? We didn't have it, that's fine. So most Sundays at 8:50, let's say that, we have Introduction to Zazen. So it's a base, and even if you came today and didn't do it, you can do the introduction at any time. So it's not like you can, ever do it, you only have one chance. So we have Introduction to Zazen, we have that every Sunday at 8:50. I think it looks like you can register, is it registration required for that one? Yeah, so that we know who's coming. But all of this is online at buddhai.org for sure. So if you're new to meditation practice, or if you're seeking specific introduction to this temple, you can enjoy that, or you can engage in that, and that's in person only. We have, as another side note, we have in person and online both, especially during this COVID time, but some things are in person only, and this is one of those. So Introduction to Zazen is something that anybody can engage in, and I encourage, if this is your first or second time here and haven't done that yet, I encourage you to do that. Looks like next thing on our list is a Thursday evening assembly, which will be led by Ejo. And it doesn't say any here what the topic is, but we will do meditation, chanting service, and a Dharma teaching. So it looks like the format is similar to what we do on Sundays, but Thursday evening is an option. June, I don't think she's here today, but June will be offering a class on orienting our lives to practice. And she'll be using a text called Zen Roots by Kyogen Carlson. And Kyogen is the co-founding abbot of Dharma Rain Zen Center. And he was a key person in the establishment of this temple. Kyogen is deceased. But his light and his teaching shine through this temple in many, many ways. And the book Zen Roots is very accessible. He also wrote a book called Zen and the American Grain. So that'll be led by June. And then another offering that we'll have, and June's offering is in person and online, it looks like. So you can do either way. So we're doing a lot of flexibility with COVID. Then another Kogen, Howard Hausnecht. I don't think he's here today either. It's a holiday weekend after all. He will be offering a class on the Heart Sutra. That's a core text. We chanted it this morning as part of our morning service. So there'll be a class on that. This is something that Kogen's been working with for quite a while. So we'll explore the Heart Sutra through recitation, discussion, and that begins on October 12th. And that's, again, another in-person or online. So we have Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and then we have another Tuesday offering. So there are several things being offered on Tuesdays at the same time. So it's going to, it may be hard to choose. I'm going to say you can't go wrong no matter what you choose. Any of this will be good. So another one that Jacqueline is offering is the Great Compassionate Heart. It's a discussion and an exploration of the Great Compassionate Heart Dharani, which we also chanted this morning. So those were the two sutras we did this morning, the Heart Sutra and the Great Compassionate Heart Dharani. Okay. And then, yay, somebody's here who's teaching, Dokyu. Dokyu over here behind the computer, and I think Reiko is online. They are offering a community circle. Community circles are a little different than a front-facing class. So a community circle for cultivating practice. And this could be a really good one to attend if you're a beginner, from what it sounds like. I don't know, Dokyu, if you want to say more about that, or Reiko, if you want to say more about it, what this offering will be about.
Yeah, I can go first. So basically, it will be kind of tailored to who comes and what people want to learn about, but it will go over some stuff you might learn in Intro to Zazen, but also we generally support each other and talk about practice in terms of what our motivation is and how certain forms work at the temple, so it should be pretty fun.
Yeah. Reiko, I don't know if you want to say anything?
There will be 2 circles. I'll be leading a circle online for folks, and Dokyu will be leading a circle at the temple in person.
Oh, good.
And they are happening at the same time. There's a little confusion on the calendar right now, but I think it's correct in the programming. They're happening at the same time on Wednesdays.
Oh, thank you for that. I didn't catch that myself, so thanks for that. So you can do it online with Reiko or in person with Dokyu. And this sounds like it could be a really good place to explore that too tight, too loose thing. You know, so really kind of gain support, explore, and so on. So thanks, thank you. I will be doing let's see where my page is going. So I'll be doing an exploration of different Buddhist practices of compassion. If any of you were here over the summer in June, I did a series on that in the summer. I'll be doing it as a community circle, exploring practices such as Tonglen, Metta, and some more modern practices of how do we cultivate compassion. And that will be in person only. If there is a lot of interest to do it online, I'll figure out how to accommodate you, because I don't want to turn anybody away. Okay, so those will be on Mondays, and that's a 6:30 to 8:30, because I'll be doing Zazen at the beginning part. And then June is doing another class, Racialized Mind and Racial Justice, Part 3. So Ejo did and the good thing about this one, even though this is a third part, you could listen to the other. I think, was that recorded, her parts 1 and 2? No, okay. All right, so that won't work. It is part 3. You'll have to maybe contact, I'm sure she'll figure out a way for people to jump in, even if it is part 3. But it is based on a series of Dharma talks that Ejo did a year ago called Racialized Mind. And I think those talks are available online. So that would be a good, if you were interested in June's discussion about this, you might want to listen to those talks that are available online. So it looks like registration is required, and that one is online only. And again, always contact the Buddha Eye office or any of the leaders for questions about any of these things. Okay, here's another one with Reiko, Earth Witness. I don't know, Reiko, if you want to say something about that one. It looks really interesting. Wednesdays, November 3rd, December 1st.
You can just read the description. That's okay.
Okay, the description's good. Okay.
It's in the background right now, so.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Okay, so if it sounds like a lot, it is, but you know, we are a community temple, and as a community, we offer many pathways in. So we want to, make it as welcoming as possible. We do have a number of ceremonies going on. We have Sagaki, feeding of the hungry ghosts, which is, maybe it's kind of it happens around Halloween, but it's not a Halloween type thing, but it's a celebration of the hungry ghosts. So and then we do this because our liberation is not just for ourselves, but it's for everyone, all beings, those who are suffering, those who are considered to be, I don't know what the word is I want, but all beings, regardless. Jukai will be celebrating those who are receiving the precepts. We have Fusatsu, a monthly ceremony of atonement. A big one we have coming up, a big ceremony we have coming up is if I can say it, Shinzashiki, right? Shinzan. This is going to be a very big, important ceremony in mid-October, where we will be installing Ejo as the formal abbot of this temple, and where we will be, as I understand it, officially recognized as a Soto Zen temple within the realm of all Soto Zen temples. So that's happening, I think, 17th of October, right? 17th of October. So that's going to be a very big and important ceremony. Everyone is welcome to come, whether, again, it be your first time or your 100th time. So that, and then we have a sesshin at the end of September up to, I guess, mark our sort of entryway into that ceremony. I can't answer any questions about that. Can you answer any questions about that? No? Okay. You know, show up and discover. We're in that, we're kind, you know, my offering today is kind of within that lamplight, within that camping lantern. But I'm in the camping lantern trying to offer some light on all of this, but you're going to have to come and step outside and see what the mystery is. We have Fusatsu, which is a monthly ceremony of atonement. We have retreats. We have closing ceremony. We have sesshin. We have a lot to offer here. So does anyone have any questions? I would encourage questions. And if you don't want to ask them publicly, yes, please.
What is a retreatation?
Teisho, it's a formal talk that's given during retreat. So the talk that I'm doing today is not a teisho. A teisho during a retreat is where we sit in zazen, and it's more of a formal talk just given by the teacher, and there's no time for question and answer. So that's kind of a really basic answer. I don't know if any of you have anything more to add to that. No? Okay. Nobody wants to talk today. What is your name, by the way?
Antonia?
Antonia? Nice to meet you. Welcome. Yeah. Okay. Any and all questions, whether there's never a silly one. Yes, go ahead.
What are the retreats? Could you just say a little bit more about them? Are they are several days, so you just come for a certain amount of hours, or are they all day, or?
So, yes, sesshin. So, sesshin, we have 3 this term. In the past, people can drop in. I think that's true for all of them. So, you can come if you stay for the entire time. We start with the first period of zazen at 5, and the last period of zazen ends at 9:15 or something like that. So you can be here all day for the extent of those, but you can also come in for little bits. You can come in for a couple of hours. You can come in for an evening block. I think the way we organize them is that we have blocks during the day that make it. I think we have people drop in for blocks. So if you wanted to come in the morning, you could come in the morning, say 5 a.m. through breakfast, or 5 a.m. through lunch, something like that. Then you could come in the afternoon block, which would be something like after lunch until evening, or you could come in the evening block, which would be something like 6:45 to the closing, which is around 9. So that's a really good question. We don't have it's not like if you want to come, you have to come for the whole thing. You can come for part of it. And as registration for those things gets closer, there'll be more information about that. So you're not required to come to all of it. So especially if you're a beginner, it's really good to just say, okay, I'm going to go for this amount of time once. And maybe that's all you can do, because you don't know what it's like, right? So you got to decide how I don't know how to play this lute. I don't know how to tune this lute. I need to get a sense of it. So I'm going to come for this amount of time and see what that feels like. So yes, thank you. And what is your name?
Megan.
Megan, welcome. Did you have another question, Antonia?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
For the daily zazen, are we committing to doing it here, or are we able to do that at home as well?
If you're term student, as I understand it, you don't have to do it here. If you were going to commit to 30 minutes a day, you could do it at home. You could do a combination. The other thing about the daily zazen at the temple is that the first period of zazen, I think the temple gates open at what, 4:30 or 4:45? 4:45. So the gate over here is opened at 4:45, and you can, I think, as I understand it, you can you can come in at 4:45 if you want to, and you could sit for all or part of that period that starts at 5 and goes to 5:40. So you could do that, and then you could leave if you wanted to, or you could come at 6 o'clock, and you could sit from 6 to 6:40, and then and you can leave at that time, or you can stay for the morning service. So I think that the blocks are divided into the periods of zazen. So if you wanted to come here and do it, you could, but you can also do it at home. So yes, yeah.
There will also be some evening meditation.
Oh, thank you for that.
Also,
Yeah.
so that will be at 6:30.
So again, lots of options, lots of ways in. Anybody online have a question? Anybody outside have questions? Yeah, come on in. Hello. That's fine.
Closer.
Yeah, you're fine. And what's your name?
Dawn,
Dawn. Nice to meet you, Dawn. Welcome.
thank you. I have a question about Jukai.
Uh-huh.
I took Jukai at a center in Beaverton
Okay.
years ago, and I'm sensing it's quite a bit different here. There it was a Sangha-wide study of the precepts through the spring, and then those who chose to take Jukai took it at the end of that period. I'm just wondering what the process is here.
So do you have a little Wagesa?
I do. I
Okay.
do.
So you took it probably with Domyo.
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And I get the sense that it's quite a bit different here, and I just wondered if you could say a little bit about what the process is.
Well, I think it would involve discussion with Ejo, the teacher. That would be the place to start.
Okay.
We don't do that Sangha-wide ceremony and offer the
Yeah.
Wagesa. We don't do that. So you would undertake, the full process where you would sow and receive a Raksu.
Yeah, okay, so the entry point into that though is a discussion with it.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I wanted to know.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to just, make an appointment and chat with him when you feel ready to do that.
Thanks very
And
much.
there's no pressure to do it either, so,
Thanks very much.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you and welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, it used to be that we had a place out here that you would write when you wanted to make an appointment with Echo. And is that not the way it's going to be, or?
I think that'll happen again starting in September, after the practice period starts. Yeah, summer is kind of and summer's always kind of the loose time. So I think he was available by appointment only just over the summer. But yeah, I believe that will come back. Yes, that will come back. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. And so I think there'll be more information about that as the term gets started. And so I think one of the requirements of being a term student is that you meet with him for Sanzen or meet with one of the Koji for practice discussion, and there will be sign-up available for that.
Because I'm interested in committing to the precepts, and
Mhm.
I've been trying to reach him, and I guess
Yeah.
it's been because it's summer.
Yeah, that's it. If you've been emailing him directly or emailing the
I've
office?
been emailing him through the office.
Yeah, I don't know. It's summer. It's nothing personal. I guarantee you that. I want you to even be assured of that. It's nothing personal. It's just it's summer and the temple was closed for a couple of weeks and all that kind of stuff.
And he's had a grandbaby.
And he just had a grandbaby. That's right. So, so I would say just keep at it. And once the term starts, you'll have, no doubt you'll have a chance to meet with him. So yes, I encourage you not to give up. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's more about the how we consider what we're kind of calling formal practice and how that weighs against, like our everyday practice of just meeting our lives and treating that as practice, and sort of what it means when we say formal practice. Like what is it to like come to the temple and read a text, like reading dharmic texts or diving into that, and sort of the value of that, but also the value of meeting our life with the eyes of practice, where it's not sort of explicitly said that this is like a place of study,
Right. Well, one way that I would answer that question, is that we can sort of throw up our hands and say, well, my whole life is practice, so I don't need to go to the temple because my whole life is practice. I mean, that's kind of one way to answer it. On the other hand, you can't discover how your whole life is practice unless you engage in meditation and sutra study. Because at least that's one way that I see it. So I think we need both. And I think there's a way that by, I'll just say, speaking for myself, forcing myself to come to the Zendo, at 5 a.m. early on. I don't have to force myself as much anymore, but really, it's again, to me, it's again about edges. what edge am I going to push myself into to discover what does it mean that my whole life is practice? And I think for me, I mean, I've been practicing pretty consistently since about 1996. If you knew me back then, I'm a million degrees different person. I don't think the me of 1996 is not anywhere close to the same of the me of 2021. Yes, I'm however many years that is older, that makes a difference. But the practice has been huge. And it's been forcing myself in a way, really allowing myself to struggle with that correct tuning of temple practice versus, oh, my whole life is practice. I don't need to sit zazen anymore. That's not true at all. I mean, I go through periods where I don't sit as much as I should or want to. But I guess I'll just leave it at that rather than just sort of say the same thing over and over again. I think I think you have to come to a temple and sit zazen and explore sutras and grapple with the difficult questions of life with others before practice can become your whole life. That's what I think. But you might have a different answer. And you might have a different answer. So yeah, thank you for asking that. Yeah.
I just want to say that the forms in the temple help the practice take a clear shape. So, because your practice actually is always your whole life. But when you come to the temple and you learn the forms, it helps it to begin to take shape and be clear and more organized, and the why and the what and the how of it become more clear. So that's how we balance the formal and the informal being
Thank you.
in the world.
Yeah,
So.
thank you for that. And I think, many Westerners struggle with the forms, but like Shanae says, they create the container, and the beauty of them unfolds over time. So, I mean, bowing and all that stuff, it's not a Western thing or an American thing to do, but it really does unfold over time into a beautiful, supportive container.
Can you explain it? I was trying to think, what do you mean by the form?
Yeah, the forms.
Well, forms can actually be anything. You can have the forms of bowing, you can have the forms of, the fruit and cookies and flowers, or you can have the forms actually of the scriptures also, remind you of the forms, the form of the practice, or distilling, what the practice is actually about, or narrowing down what the practice is about, so year after year after year. So anything that begins to give that clarity. So it doesn't have to just be, a rigid rhythm or movement that we have, but, it can be anything that helps us, understand what the practice is about and be the form. But literally it would be, the robes, monks, bowing, how many bows before this, but that's always really changing. So then the change itself can inform your practice. So you will see it as you come here. It gives you like a microcosm. What comes up in your sitting is a microcosm of what you can do, allowing your thoughts to rise and fall, and seeing that your thoughts are flexible and that they do disappear, gives you a key for how to deal with it when you go out into the world and somebody does something and presses your buttons. Then you can use your meditation practice to help you, be more awake, in everyday life, and use the practice in everyday life. So kind of like that.
Well said, Shanae. Thank you so much. She's a wise woman. Okay. Buddha